Hey everybody, happy 2021. I am excited to share with you some of my top tips to make this a different year. And the reason I waited till today, which is the 3rd, instead of the 1st, is to let the hype settle. There's so much hype around the end of the year, the new year, and so much pressure that all of a sudden, just because there's a new date on the calendar, things are magically going to be different, or magically you're going to do something different. And to start, I just want to share, change happens not because of a date on the calendar. It happens when you just gotten to that place where you've had enough and you don't want to keep doing what you're doing, and you want something different, and that doesn't wait for a certain date on the calendar. It happens in your heart, in your mind, and in your soul. So what I want to share to kind of give some background is, I've been immersed in the world of psychology and communication and the mind, and really, we all know this, but we sometimes forget. We tend to live well within our possibilities, and we tend to, energize below our highest possible levels, and we tend to inhibit ourselves a lot, really through just the habit of fatigue. And we all have the opportunity to learn to operate at higher levels of power, to completely, change the level at which we operate. And that is something that is always available to us. And so it is, the 3 things I'm going to share with you are how you can start to change that. Dewey, hi Jaylee. Okay, so the first one is, this is super important, is you got to lay it down. And what I mean by that is just every story, every belief, every excuse, everything that you have in your environment that tells you you can't change, or it's too hard, or any habits or patterns that just it's time to let them go. Just lay it down. And laying it down means become aware of it, and also laying it down means releasing it, which also involves forgiving yourself. So this is not an opportunity to dig up all these things and beat yourself up and feel bad and go into, the rabbit hole of self-destruction and all the reasons why it can't be done or you're broken. That's not what lay it down means. Lay it down means letting it go. So taking stock of what it is, learning from it, and then releasing it, knowing it's done, it's in the past. And forgiveness, of course, means it's done, it's released, and that allows you this clean slate to begin. And you can't begin until you have a clean slate. You don't want to begin with the idea that there's something wrong with you and that it's too hard, or you've done everything and it's just, might as well just give up. Because we're always operating in a state of 2 possibilities. It's the acceptance of defeat or the belief in the absurd. So believing beyond, all circumstances, beyond your upbringing, beyond everything that you've been taught or everything that you see around you, and believing, yes, it is possible for you to do what it is that you desire, versus just accepting defeat. Like, nope, it's just too much. It's just not for me. I don't have what it takes. And you're always navigating between those 2 places, all of us. And so at any time you can choose one or the other. So the first one, laying it down, some examples from my life is, coming to the point where I could decide just to give up on my business, or I could decide, this is going to happen. And it's not something that it's not just one decision, it's a constant decision, almost sometimes a daily decision. Second part then, once you have laid it down, forgiven yourself, released, learned, let it go. The second part is then to really assess and then heighten your intention. So ask yourself, if you are at that point of wanting to do something different, why? What is your big vision? What is that mission and purpose within you that wants to come through you? And why? What is it all for? Because if you especially are in the entrepreneurial world, it is not an easy game because it's just you. It's not some employer telling you to get something to them by a certain time or make a certain number of sales by a certain time. It's you. And it has to come from a deeper place within versus just external pressure to meet some sort of superficial goal, right? It has to be coming from something deep within you. An example of this would be a couple examples. So, for example, when I was in the Coast Guard, I was on the cross-country team. And so it was easy, quote unquote, to train at a really high level because I had to, if I wanted to compete in the race, I had to show up for all the workouts, all the practices. When I was training on my own for a marathon, there was no one there. There's no practices. There was no one making me show up to run. But it was, I knew I wanted to have a somewhat enjoyable experience running a marathon. So I had to have that internal drive to get up and run. And, when it was dark in the morning, when it was freezing, when it was snowing, whatever. And that has to be, again, something deeper within because there's no one there to make you do it. And the same with business. You're the one that is driving you to keep going. And that has to be, again, coming from something much deeper, something much bigger than just meeting a certain set income level, because that's not really all that inspiring. Okay, and then the third part is to check your support. I would say this is probably one of the most important things, and it has been such an important thing on my journey, because without the right support, you're just going to be spinning your wheels, and sometimes you might get the wrong support. A couple examples, in high school, I was on the cross-country team, but he was a good coach, but he couldn't coach the way that I needed, and so I wasn't a great runner. And then, of course, like I mentioned, at the Coast Guard, I had the most incredible coaching team, and I ran like I didn't even know it was possible for me to run at that level. And the same is true in business. So I've had coaches whose support and strategies didn't work for me at all, and sometimes actually might have made me go backwards instead of forward. But of course, there's always learning in that too, so that's always good. And then getting the right support, again, has expanded what was possible for me beyond what I even thought was possible. And I'm going to add to this, you can't do it on your own. If you could do it on your own, you would already be massively successful, healthy, fit, all the things that you desire. So it's a sign of strength. And the other part of this is you also need supernatural support. So it's not just getting a human to help you. It's also really cultivating a deeper faith and trust that you are supported. That is critical, and that's been critical to my success as well. So really, it's how I guide my clients is guiding them through the intellectual, the emotional, because this is when you're growing, it's a huge emotional adjustment. And my process is coming from, which is similar to how the Coast Guard coaches coach me, the process is coming from my own experience, my own training, my own education, my deep immersion in this field, and application of everything that I have been through to what I teach my clients, to guide them to their higher level of not only delivery, but also showing up at a different level and receiving at a different level. And that comes from being able to guide them in a really holistic way, because it's not just mindset, it's not just strategy, it's everything. So like I mentioned, it's intellectual, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's psychological. And how I guide my clients in where my process came from is from my own evolution, and how all the things that I've learned, all the things that didn't work, and constantly being immersed in continuing to learn and apply all the things that I do in my life with my clients. So if you are in that place where you are just done, ready to do something different, ready to show up in a much more powerful and bold way, to share what you really feel and really take a lead in your business, because what I'm here for really is creating leaders and guiding leaders to higher levels of expression, higher levels of power, high levels of receiving, higher levels of delivery, So if you are ready for that, send me a DM and let's get your business to be a huge, higher level of fitness all around and success. Let me know your thoughts. Talk to you soon. Bye.